let's move on to AI then and kind of what's going on there. I expected much more people actually to think the bubble's gonna pop very soon, but a lot of people think it's gonna continue for 27. It's gonna pop maybe later. So today, to sum up 25 and in a couple of charts of what happened with AI. First, we looked at the capital raised by AI companies, and those are all the headlines that you see about OpenAI raising big money, Anthropic, Perplexity, and so on. Those are those amounted to more than $200 billion of capital raise so far until now. Maybe there are some more deals coming in later this year. But the big conclusion is probably that it's quite concentrated, and what you showed, Martin, on one of the slides, where it's all a big network of connections between those companies, is the bulk of funding goes to the biggest players. So the biggest LLMs get the funding. And if you look here at those blue, red, yellow bars, which are Series A, B, C funding, so earlier stage than companies like OpenAI, and this is quite flat actually. Yeah, so not a lot of growth on the years. I think money is really funneled to the biggest players, and investors think that the big players will win. The rest, yeah, probably not, or it's very difficult to compete. So that's one point, and I think also the other point is that this $200 billion is what we're seeing in the massive growth of our AI index. So this $200 billion, or $84 billion last year. So that's what's driving the index, and all this money goes to capex and infrastructure and energy investment and chips and HVAC equipment, electrical equipment, and all the stuff that goes to the data centers. So kind of the public stock markets and good performance of those companies, in a large way, in my opinion, depends on the funding here. So if the markets are indeed to perform well over next year, if we think AI is going to be the best performing part of the tech ecosystem, I think you have to believe that the funding continues, and we'll see more and more massive investments, both equity and debt. The next one is about circularity. I mentioned already covered that. This is a lot of funding between related companies who are at the same time customers, investors, or suppliers of each other. Not very healthy, probably. If it unravels, it's gonna just accelerate it. And there's some theory about bubbles go. If there's a lot of debt funding, then it's even worse. And I think we start to see that there is more capital raised through debt markets. And then we finally took a look at the acquisitions. There's a lot of funding going around, a lot of companies raise capital, but what about M&A and full buyouts? And that's been on the rise so far in 2025. So 220 deals so far, a couple more going to be closed until the end of the year. So the companies do, kind of larger companies do buy AI companies. They acquire a lot of acqui-hires, a lot of technology buys. I think that's going to continue going further in 26. We're seeing even big players making the moves. Adobe acquired SEMrush a couple of weeks ago. There was IBM announced a deal with Confluence. So M&A market is also moving and quite healthy. And I think if everything's good with AI, if that continues, it's going to be another record year for that.
Yes, I anticipate next year will be again a year of massive growth. And in line with our new expectation that the bubble will burst in 27, we should see probably peak of activity in 2027. And then it will probably freeze for a while.
But I don't know what to use here. If it's expectations will kind of be the reality theory or the theory that you have to invert the public consensus.
No, I think the participants are educated in our webinar, so I would trust the judgment. So I mean, I would expect 2027 to see the biggest wave of exits and consolidation. So it's important when you think about timing and an exit from an AI company that there is a window of opportunity that will probably very suddenly collapse. So it's always good to have your options open and consider all the offers that are inbound, unsolicited. Not necessarily put it for an auction yet, but definitely there are buyers that are interested. It's good to hear them and have them on standby because you never know when it's gonna collapse.
Yeah, I remember 2020, 2021 period when it was peak for SaaS companies. I think it was a similar situation.
Yeah.
It was a very, very hot market for a year or so, and then suddenly it changed. And there were some deals that were completing for some time afterwards as private equity funds still had a lot of capital. But then now I think the market for SaaS exits is a bit kind of subdued.